The Fantastic Beasts films expand the Harry Potter universe so much, especially when it comes to the many magical creatures that appear in the movies. I thought it would be fun to go over every single beast we've seen so far in the films and give you guys more details on each one. So I went through both films frame by frame, referenced the screenplay for both movies, and of course referenced Newt Scamander's best-selling book of which the films are named after, and I put together the ultimate video explaining every single beast we've seen so far in the Fantastic Beasts films. So get ready to expand your Harry Potter knowledge, and let's get this video started. The first creature that makes an appearance is a Niffler, which is described as a burrowing creature that is obsessed with anything glittery or shiny. They are often kept by goblins to find them treasure, and though they're gentle and affectionate creatures, they can be very destructive, and Newt Scamander advised witches and wizards to never keep them in a house. This is not the first time we were introduced to Nifflers, however, as they were introduced in the Goblet of Fire by Hagrid in his Care of Magical Creatures lesson. We also saw a Niffler in the 5th book when Lee Jordan put a few in Umbridge's office. The next creature is an Akami, which we saw hatch in the bank, and later we see a whole nest of them. They are plump, two-legged winged creatures with a serpent-like body. It can reach a length of 15 feet, and it feeds on mostly rats and birds, and occasionally monkeys. It is aggressive to all who approach it, especially in defense of its eggs, whose shells are made of the purest, softest silver. They can grow and shrink to fit the available space, as we saw it do, filling an entire room and then shrinking down to fit in a teapot. After that, we see a Bowtruckle. They're known as tree guardians, and they are immensely difficult to spot as its max size is 8 inches. They are very shy creatures, but if the tree that they live in is threatened, they have been known to leap down upon the one responsible and gouge their eyes with its long and sharp fingers. This is another creature that made an appearance in the original books first, specifically in the Order of the Phoenix when the class was told to study and later draw the creatures. The next creature we see is a house elf, which we pretty much all know of. They are creatures that are sworn to one wizarding family, and they act as slaves to that family unless they are given clothes by their masters. We saw plenty of house elves in the original series, from Dobby to Winky to Kreacher, and of course all of the house elves in the Hogwarts kitchens. The next creature we see is a Murtlap, a rat-like creature with a growth on its back, and if you eat that growth, it can cause resistance to curses and jinxes. A bite from a Murtlap can cause flames out of a person's anus that can last up to 48 hours, and if you're foolish enough to step on the creature, it might eat your foot before you even have time to react. The next creature is a Billywig. It's so fast that it's rarely seen by humans unless they are stung, and once stung, the person suffers from giddiness followed by levitation. Generations of young witches and wizards, mostly in Australia, have attempted to catch Billywigs and provoke them to sting them so they can enjoy the side effects. However, too many stings may cause the victim to hover uncontrollably for days on end, and if allergic to the creature and stung, permanent floating could take place. Next we have the Swooping Evil, which is the first beast that we've come across that was made solely for this movie. It's basically an extremely large butterfly, and when it's not flying, it shrinks into a green spiny cocoon. It can be quite dangerous as it feeds on people's brains, and as we saw with Newt, he used the creature as a weapon to escape Makuza. The Thunderbird is the next creature we see, and this was another creature created solely for this movie. It's a close relative to the Phoenix, the creature Fawkes was, and it has the ability to create storms as it flies. One of the 4 houses of the American Wizarding School, Ilvermorny, is named after this beast as well. The next creature we see that isn't mentioned but just in the background is a giant dung beetle. It's like a normal dung beetle, but obviously judging by its name it's much bigger, which is where the magical aspect of the creature comes in. It has 3 large horns that it could use to push or carry balls of dung, which is exactly what it's doing here behind Jacob. Next we are introduced to Graphorns. They are known to have an extremely aggressive nature, and mountain trolls can sometimes be seen riding them. Their outer layer is one of the toughest of any creatures, being even tougher than dragons, meaning it can repel most spells. Newt rescued 2 of them, and they happen to be the last 2 breeding pair in existence, meaning that Newt single-handedly saved the creatures from being extinct. As the camera pans away from the Graphorns, we see a Flooper. They could be orange, pink, lime green, or yellow, and its fur has long been a provider of fancy quills. Though at first enjoyable, Flooper's song will eventually drive the listener to insanity, and because of this, they are sold with a silencing charm on it. Next we see Doxies, which are often mistaken for fairies, as they have human-like bodies with wings, but their body has 2 legs and 2 arms. The Doxies then fly up to Glowbugs, which are magical worm-like creatures that are kept inside light bulbs. As the camera pans over, we see Grindylows, which is no new creature to those that read the Harry Potter books, as there are loads of them in the Great Lake as we saw in the Triwizard Tournament. They're known as water demons, and they're aggressive toward wizards and muggles, though mer people have been known to domesticate them and have them as pets. A Nundu is shown next, and to many, it's considered the most dangerous creature alive. The breath of a Nundu, which is stored in the inflated sac on their neck, is so toxic and deadly that it could wipe out entire villages of people. Seen right after the Nundu, as the Nundu goes after them, are Duricrawls, bird-like creatures that are known for their remarkable methods of escaping danger. They do this by vanishing and then reappearing somewhere else. Interestingly, Muggles were once fully aware of the existence of the Duricrawl, though they knew it by the name of a dodo. Unaware that they could vanish at will, Muggles believe that they have hunted the species to extinction. Next are mooncalves, shy creatures with huge bulging round eyes on top of their head. They only emerge from their burrows at full moon, and they perform complicated dances on their hind legs, often leaving intricate geometric patterns behind in wheat fields to the great puzzlement of Muggles. If they drop silvery dung during their dance, the dung can be used to grow flower beds very fast and make them very strong. The next creature we see is a marmite, which is described as a cross between a dust mite and a squid. Their tentacles can reach up to 10 feet, but they are unable to feed themselves and have to be bottle fed, as we saw Newt doing. Probably the most interesting creature that we see in the first film is an Obscurus. This creature is created when a young witcher wizard represses their magical abilities, and a manifestation of that repressed energy forms what we know as an Obscurus. If the Obscurus is inside of a child, the child is known as an Obscurial, and we have seen two examples of these, Credence Barebone and Ariana Dumbledore, Albus Dumbledore's sister. And if what Grindelwald said at the end of the last movie is true, Credence Barebone is also a Dumbledore, though I highly doubt this. I guess we'll see. The next creature we see is the Eurumpin. It can weigh up to a ton, has a thick hide that repels most charms and curses, and it has a horn that can pierce everything from skin to metal, and the horn contains deadly fluid that is highly explosive. We of course saw this in the Deathly Hallows when Xenophilius Lovegood had a Eurumpin horn in his house, and it basically blew the entire house up. However, in the films it was the Death Eaters that blew it up, but in the book it was the horn, and I'm gonna go by the books. We see goblins next, and they need little explanation. Here we see a different side of goblins, however, and instead of them being uptight and working as we saw at Gringotts, here we see them at a jazz club singing and dancing. In the end, however, the goblins do what they do best and double-cross the wizards. In the jazz club, we also see a giant, another creature that needs no introduction. They can reach up to 20 to 25 feet and can be very dangerous, as they are barbaric creatures compared to humans, and they tend not to like witches and wizards who drove them away into the mountains. During the period of this film, however, it appears that they have not yet been shunned by wizards, or they might have just been shunned in Europe but not in America, which is why this giant is casually in a pub like this in America. In the pub scene, we also see an Ashwinder egg. An Ashwinder can be created in two different ways. One, if a magical fire is allowed to be